because he always just does attack when like defending.
I think it's like
the transfer window's heating up, and I know it's June the 4th, yeah, and we're still Premier League winners. You get me? You're gonna need at least another year to come get this. Well, shit, man. But anyways, I know it's the 4th of June at the time of recording. I know Arsenal are gonna make signings, yeah. But is it just me? You're seeing Canate, Real Madrid, Haaland Canate, Real Madrid, Haaland, Real Madrid, Ederson going to Man United, Anderson, Manchester City. You are seeing Rodgers links, but you're thinking you want to see David Ornstein say something about Arsenal while we're all giddy in it. Now, it's a long season. It'll be an interesting one because a lot of these transfers are going to be affected by the World Cup, etc., etc. So, yeah, we got the World Cup transfer news, and before we know it, the Prem's back. Now, as much as I don't like Tottenham hotshot, I do think, with no Europe and a manager like De Zerbi, they'll be competitive again. I do think after 2 years of flirting with relegation, they won't get relegated. Now, if relating, you'd have to ask a Spurs fan what you think success is, people, because the immediate goal has to be the domestic trophies, the FA Cup, League Cup, try win that, go as far as you can, get back into the Champions League, either via the top 4 places, 5 places. I don't even know how it all works, people, but let's just say from 1 to 5. Now, for me, I don't think Spurs finish above me, as in Arsenal. I don't think they finish above United or Liverpool or Chelsea. Have I said City or City? So make of that what you will. But De Zerbi's a good manager. I do think that crop of players, in many ways, it needs flushing out, it needs rebuilding, but in many ways, they're definitely better than how they've been performing domestically in the last 2 years. Because let's have it right, the year they won the Europa League, they were shit. It'd be interesting. They're linked with a lot of centre backs, and they've got that Croatian lad who's been on loan in Germany, and he's obviously being linked with Barcelona. He's got big potential. On paper, they've still got Romero and Van der Ven. I think everybody expects Romero to leave, potentially Van der Ven. They've got Senesi on a free transfer. If they get Van Hecke, who is linked with Liverpool, has been linked with Chelsea, is a very good centre half and a bit of a shithouser. I was at Arsenal Brighton 2 years ago. Actually, 2 years ago, where Rice was sent off. Very good centre half. Now, whether you want to pay 70 million for a man with 1 year left on his deal is your business. I think a lot of us football fans, yeah, when you see certain fees, we have to get away from it now. We all know football is transfer values and transfer fees. It's gone ridiculous, in it. Like it is what it is. But apparently, and typically the first bids are rejected. Tottenham fell in Jean-Paul Van Hecke transfer bid with Chelsea and Liverpool also in the hunt for the 70 million rated centre-half. He's obviously a Dutch international, plays for Brighton, where he'd relink with De Zerbi if he did go to Spurs, 25 years of age, very good ball-playing ability. Was it the last day of the season or the year or the week before? Yeah, he played one stupid back pass that got intercepted, but I think he's a good player, man, if I'm honest with you. Apparently, Spurs' pursuit of him is a big hint. They're ready to get rid of Roberto De Zerbi. Again, they've got a year left. He's got a year left on his contract, so it probably would make sense for Brighton to get rid. And Brighton always, they'll sign, like, for example, when they signed Caicedo, they knew they would sell him to Chelsea, innit? So they probably had, not only at the point of them signing Caicedo, they had Caicedo's replacement and the replacement for that, such as the way they work. Again, I really admire. Admittedly, all their names begin with a B in it, but Brighton, Brentford, and Bournemouth, the way they recruit, what they do is absolutely crazy. And Brighton, they might face a couple of people leaving, because if I was a Brighton fan, I would want us to. I think they've had a lot of stability. I'd want to see them do what Sunderland did or what Bournemouth have done this year. But yeah, in addition to Van Hecke, you'd imagine Verbruggen, goalie, and Belemba seems to have gone away from the Man United links. I wouldn't rule it out. They're going to face a fight to keep hold of them people. And you know what? To be fair, when I speak to my Spurs supporting friends, yeah, I'm getting mixed opinions on Andy Robertson. A lot of them think he's past it. A lot of them are not that they don't rate Andy Robertson and the experience and what he could potentially bring to their side. It's the fact that they feel they're disillusioned with the ownership and whatnot. And they question, well, you wanted Robertson before De Zerbi, you're signing him before, although we've saved ourselves from relegation and all of those things, what's really changed? But there's none of these things that make me go, wow, but they need defensive reinforcements. If you can get Senesi, Van Hecke, and Andy Robertson, at least for a year with Robertson, and you got to remember, people like Robertson, just in terms of being a good player, and obviously, he's on the wrong side of 30, but he's a good player, arguably could have been Liverpool starting left back. a lot of benefits for Robertson, yeah, are things that the casual football fan are not going to see. And what I mean by that is in the dressing room and all of those things where there's a bit, let's have it right. Spurs haven't had players that have stood up to be counted enough throughout the season. So, yeah, man, he's a decent player. And they're still linked with Silvinho. I'm not sure how that really works. And they're trying to get Paulinho on a permanent one. Not really sure what to make of Silvinho. I mean, 70 odd million. Spurs' spending is going to be ridiculous then. Like, if they're linked with 70 million for Silvinho, 70 million for Van Bruggen, that takes you to 140. I don't know how much Paulinho's deal takes it permanent. I don't know how much the wage bill is affected by a lot of these things. But yeah, and then again, it'll be offset by some outgoings. You would imagine Romero leaves, potentially Van de Ven and a couple of others. So it'd be interesting. Apparently, Rashford's future is set to change once again with Man United. Now, Man United, they are going to be back, unfortunately. And I think a lot of their fans are getting a bit ahead of themselves, talking about next season. Next season, you only played 40 games, but Carrick's done his thing. They're going to get more squad players. In terms of finances, they're going to have more wiggle room in the next 2 years because Casemiro was a great servant, but he was on big money. He's cut. Sancho's deal is running out. They've got some money from Ramos Højlund. They'll probably get rid of Agate and all of those things. Ederson, very good signing from Atalanta, in my opinion, addressing the area they need of central midfield. And if they move Rashford on, then that saves a wage bill as well. Also, on top of that, you can't rule out under Michael Carrick Rashford having a future. You'd have to ask a Man United friend, of yours, or whatever, how they feel about it. Because I would love for it to work for Rashford at Man United, but I think a divorce as well. It's a shame that he probably won't get his move to Barcelona because I just feel he had a smile on his face. He's out of the limelight. The media don't care about British players when you're not playing abroad. And whatever you think about Man United, whatever you think about Rashford, rightly or wrongly, whatever you got to say, like, you think of Marcus Rashford, you think of Man United. That's been his identity. Sometimes you need a divorce from that. So I wouldn't rule out anything. Barcelona still could end up buying him, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I think it's a myth. Barcelona have been given a deadline by Man United for the 15th of June. Now, there is elections going on at Real Madrid, and you could see Enrique Riquelme saying, if I get elected, we are going to sign Haaland and we're going to sign Rodri, which has triggered a potential legal battle for Manchester City. Equally, Florentino Perez has said Canate will become a Real Madrid player. Jose Mourinho will be the manager if and when I get re-elected, people. So, yeah, we all know Florentino Perez is going to win that. Yeah, so I'm not going to waste your time with that. But, yeah, he said he's basically got an agreement with Haaland, and he held up a Haaland shirt. Apparently there's no chance of this happening and they're considering legal battles. So we'll have to see. It seems a bit silly. We all know Canate is edging closer to joining Real Madrid, people. Manchester United have agreed an Ederson deal for 38 million quid. Very tigerish midfielder as well. Again, you look at him, Kobe Mainoo, potentially another one. They'll be all right in that regards, people. He's set to sign a 4-year deal, people, with the option to extend it by 5 years. So important contract for a 26-year-old and the first signing of the Carrick era, people. Even though Casemiro weren't at his best at Man United or wasn't in his prime, that's big boots to fill. But I do think Man United fans will come to like him, innit, really and truly. Him and Mainoo will do good stuff together. And Elliot Anderson, the first bid from Manchester City that's been sent over to Nottingham Forest, has been rejected. Apparently, Nottingham Forest, rightly so, actually, in my opinion, are looking at Caicedo or Declan Rice's fees of 100 million. Elliot Anderson, ridiculous player. Ridiculous. Makes so much sense for Manchester City. Makes so much sense. English, youngish, prime ages, 23 years of age. It makes sense, innit? Probably going to be the starting member in midfield alongside Declan Rice. It makes sense. They will get there, man, naturally. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Nottingham Forest because Morgan Gibbs-White surely is going to get interest. Elliot Anderson's surely going to be moved on. Murillo could get a move away and whatnot, people. So it's going to be interesting. And obviously, you've got a World Cup, that some players want to get their deals, their new clubs, or their club's future sorted before World Cup. Some don't mind dealing with it as the World Cup's going on. Some people want to get agreements in place. And when the World Cup's done or when my team, depending on how far my team goes in this tournament, then we'll get to grips. It'd be interesting to see exactly what's going to go on. It'd be interesting to see when the moves are going to happen at the World Cup, in my opinion. You know, the players that announce themselves at the world stage, and then, you know, whether they get bought or not's their business. And obviously the knock-on effects in terms of a draining season that we've just left, going into a World Cup, and what that means at the start of the season for a lot of Premier League teams, if I'm honest. But Elliot Anderson's a baller, man.
He always just does. Defend.
I think it's like